We'll start just with a little introduction. We've sort of heard a bit from you. My name's Tim McMillan. I'm have been with Simpson College since about 2004. I did my undergraduate actually at Simpson and then moved to Minnesota and taught in high schools for 6 years, and then enjoyed coming to the undergraduate program as a faculty member, director of choral activities at Simpson, and have worked with undergraduates then for about 16 years. And in 2018, when this program began, was thrilled to be able to work with graduate students who are working in the choral field now as well. Along the way, I've worked with both church choirs and community ensembles in the Des Moines area, in Michigan, and in Minnesota. I'll turn things over to Phil.
Hi guys, so Phil Moody, originally from Missouri, so right by Iowa, and then St. Olaf College for my undergrad, but then I've done some traveling as well. I was in Albuquerque, and that's when I started singing kind of professionally as well with Santa Fe Desert Choral, but I did two master's degrees for whatever reason. I was a little ambitious, one in voice and one in choral conducting, and then took the show on the road to Houston and was in Houston for 10 years. Really enjoyed it, did some singing with Houston Grand Opera, but that also got me to University of Houston, where another master's degree created a degree in orchestral and opera conducting. So I also went into that instrumental route for a while and just loved it. Had 3 years of teaching in Houston at a public school in the high school as one of the high school directors at Clearbrook High School, and then decided I needed that terminal degree and went to University of Arizona and got my DMA there with Bruce Chamberlain. And then that took me to Georgia, where I taught at University of Georgia, taught at Clayton State University. And then after that, also realizing that this program would be just a wonderful addition to the choral educational field in general, and started working at that and still live in Atlanta. I sing with True Concord as well, which is an ensemble in Tucson, and I'm their assistant director. It's a professional ensemble like Conspirare or Rapid Fire, if you're familiar with any of those. So now live in Atlanta, but get to Des Moines all the time to co-direct this program with Tim, and it's just great. So, Amy.
Thanks, Phil. Hi, I'm Amy Voorhees. I currently am in central Pennsylvania, but I am an Iowa native and also a Simpson graduate. My master's is in ed leadership and administration, and my doctorate in conducting is from Michigan State. So I've had wonderful opportunities to do lots of learning over the course of my career. I have experience in the public schools of roughly 20 years. So Amber, you and I are very similar. And I did some extensive work with children's choirs and church choirs in those early years of my teaching career. And then I'm currently at Susquehanna University in Central PA. This is year 3, and I am enjoying the opportunity to pay it forward, so to speak, as we sort of train the next generation of future music educators. And being a part of the COREO Simpson Master's Program has been a real privilege as well. Not only do I get to continue learning from colleagues that are in the field, still in the public school scene, which is really helpful from an undergraduate instruction standpoint, but also I get to see a couple of my old friends and meet some new ones, and I love the opportunity to just continue learning from these wonderful musicians. So we hope that you enjoy what you hear tonight and potentially are willing to join us. Thanks. Go ahead, Matt.
Hello, so my name is Matt Ultman, and I'm another Simpson grad, and also I've known Phil for a long time. So I guess my part in all this was I got to help be the glue that kind of put all the pieces together, which was my great honor. I graduated from Simpson, my undergrad, and did my master's in voice at the University of York in Yorkshire, England. And soon, while I was actually still living there, is when I first auditioned, and then soon after that joined Chanticleer. It's like joining the circus. And I was with them for 13 years, both as a singer and then as their music director. And of course, made lots of records and toured all over Earth 17 times. And it was great. And then I left because I sort of had the opportunity to teach for a sabbatical replacement at UC Berkeley. And that kind of took me out of the touring loop. And I moved to New York, and I was presenting concerts at Carnegie Hall and at Lincoln Center. And then I sort of got headhunted away again to do another teaching gig at Texas State. And that's when I sort of thought, this is what I want to really be doing for my sort of second career. So I also went back and got my terminal degree from the University of Nebraska. And then I'm in my third year at Shenandoah, which is actually not so far from Amy. In fact, it's funny how many times people get it confused. People be like, Susquehanna? I'm like, no, Shenandoah. And I guess that's me. And I'm loving the summers with these guys as well. And I have never taught high school.
Well, I'm going to kick us off here. As you just heard from all of our faculty, I'm the newest member actually, and so I feel like I am still learning along with some of the cohort experience as well, just exactly what this program involves. I think, a feather in our cap, aside from it being during the summers, is that we have such a wealth of knowledge from so many different avenues. The combined 24 years of public school teaching in 3 different states, the college and university teaching in 6 different states, all of our degrees in music and education, the ensemble experience from the little ones to the professionals, and then it crosses the ocean. And I think that is something that you would find in working with all of us, and the opportunity to just learn and grow from people of such diverse backgrounds. And yet, as we know, in the music community, we are all connected and interconnected. And so if you're looking for lots of perspectives and a way to sort of find your own presentation and style on the podium, we definitely have that to offer you.
I'll just talk to you a little bit about Simpson College. I'm a very, very proud alumnus of Simpson. Simpson is a really unique place nestled in Little Indianola, Iowa, just about 15 miles south of Des Moines. I'm a Des Moines native. I started going down to Indianola when I was just a teenager. I was cast in an opera at the Des Moines Metro Opera Company, which is also housed on Simpson's campus during the summers. So after spending lots of summers there, then I went to school there. And what was kind of amazing and is amazing is how much music suddenly is produced in the middle of all the cornfields. So during the summer, one of the things that is exciting is to share the campus with a pretty major regional opera company. Between our musicians and their musicians, we number something like 300 people from all over the country descending on a town of only about 10,000. So it's a really fascinating and wonderful place to be. Des Moines is just up the road. Of course, this summer is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be, let's make a road trip up to Des Moines to go out or something like that. But we'll have there's plenty of ways to be social with each other in Indianola. So that's what Simpson College, it might sound like, where the heck is it? Where is Des Moines, Iowa? But it's you'll find that it's a very charming and beautiful spot.
Well, and I want to talk just a few moments about COREO. As Matt had mentioned, we've known each other forever, and that connection originally started with Chanticleer and Conjuice, put together because of Santa Fe Jazz Choral in the summer. So it was a great time for Matt and I, 20 years ago now at least, to meet and then always be colleagues. COREO itself, while I was in Houston, was founded out of a need because I was doing a concert series with the church that I was the director of, and the church decided that they really couldn't. They were looking at their budget and said, you know what, this is an expense that we think it's a good cause, but we just don't have the money. And I said, okay, that's fine. I'm still going to do it. So how can I make that happen? And we created COREO back in 2005 in Houston to facilitate that. Basically, at that time, the mission is enhancing choral music through education and performance, and that mission is how COREO decides what to do. Basically, a little different than your normal, say Atlanta Master Chorale or a music educational, organization like ACDA. We really look for what can COREO help to provide in whatever situation or environment it is that will help further choral education and choral music. So that involves even, publishing pieces that Matt has had to edit from old manuscripts, and we need new editions of things, to doing rehearsal tracks with Texas of prescribed musicalist pieces, and then the professional side of it with hiring vocalists and young artists to do concerts. We've had concert series in Houston, Atlanta, and Tucson in the past, but our focus now is with the Des Moines Choral Festival, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and this master's program. So one of our main things that COREO does now is working with the MMC program at Simpson. So as we also talk about this program specifically, just talking about candidates, and there's, I think, a lot of graduate programs, you look at it and you might think, oh, maybe that's not for me, or that maybe doesn't really fit the way my personality is, or whatever it is. We really wanted to create a program, and you see it from the faculty as well, that has a varied sense of education. So all types of people, it's great for this program. As Amy has said, it's in the summer. So there's, of course, always your actual teaching degree or church job or whatever it might be that you have that doesn't conflict with this. As we talk about coursework later, also, you'll realize no commitments during the year. So it's just for the summer. But it's, choir music directors, elementary music educators, performing singers even. We've had people that maybe want to get back into choral conducting, and they've been out of it for a while, and this is the way to get that degree and get themselves back on the podium and say, okay, give me some help so I can be successful. And another thing with this is, because it is in the summer, it's a great candidate for anyone that is looking to move their career into a professional field or a collegiate field. Because again, for 2 years, you don't have to worry about it, and you get to teach, and then you go on to your DMA.
Thanks, Phil. And that segues nicely, actually, into the question that perhaps Matt began addressing. Simpson College, and how did Simpson come into partnership with COREO to provide this program? And so you heard Matt and Phil allude earlier to the fact that Matt introduced Phil and me quite a few years ago, as a matter of fact, and we began a conversation about a perceived need for a 3-summer master's program in choral conducting. Really, the question became, we know that you all are here because you have jobs presumably that you love and are doing things that are meaningful to you. And in a traditional sense, during the academic year, to go enroll in an institution and take 2 years off your life usually meant, for a lot of folks, giving up a job that they loved so that they could get better at what they do and improve their job prospects. And for a lot of folks, that just doesn't make sense. And so the idea of creating a 3 summers master program made a lot of sense, and was something that we perceived there was a need for. One of the challenges with a 3-summer master's program, however, is that at most institutions, and Simpson is no exception, there are no ensembles during a summer term, and certainly not high quality ensembles if some exist oftentimes. And so our concern was being able to, in a conducting degree, a degree that deals with gesture and the response of the ensemble in communicating, it really is important to have a fantastic ensemble there to respond to gesture. And so that's really the collaboration, the opportunity for 2 organizations to work together to provide something better than either could have on their own. And so you'll know in looking through the program that Simpson's music department is fully NASM accredited, as is this program. As Matt mentioned, it's an idyllic workshop setting. It is an intensive 7 weeks in the summer, but it is like being on a choral retreat in many ways. The proximity to Des Moines makes a number of things about the performing aspects of the program really work well and gives us an audience. And the other thing about Simpson that I think is perhaps interesting, I used to mention this to high school students when I taught and they were thinking about going to undergraduate programs. And similarly, my undergraduate students who were looking for master's programs, Simpson, generally speaking, is an undergraduate institution. It has 3 graduate programs and 1 graduate program in music. That means opportunities exist exclusively for those who are seeking their master's degree in choral conducting. They are not competing with doctoral students at the same time for podium time or anything else along the way. And so with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about what the Coro generously provides for this degree program. The Des Moines Choral Festival is the public-facing part of our summer curriculum, and it does provide extensive podium time for all of our graduate students. And what this looks like during the course of the summer are live performances in the Des Moines area. Oftentimes this summer it will probably look a little different and maybe less public facing, but certainly still performances that are prepared. There are 2 groups of singers who are part of this organization in the summer, part of the festival. There are a group of 16 Coro young artists who are undergraduates or graduate students, many of them in voice and with specific choral interests as well, who are in residence with the master's students through the entirety of the summer. And they make up not only a lab choir, but also part of the performing choir. And about 3 or 4 weeks into the program, the Coro vocal artists will join us. And they are professional singers who are on the professional choral circuit in America, and they're coming to be in residence with us for the last part of our summer term. This summer, that winds up being the month of July. And they will take part in public performances and also are there to offer feedback and respond to our singers. And I will say one of the great things about the Choral Festival and the professional ensemble, as well as the young artists, is that because everyone is on campus together and living together, there's a great opportunity for everyone to get to know one another and also feel really wonderfully comfortable in giving feedback to graduate students about the work that they're doing. And so much learning happens outside the classroom. And so I would say that the amount of podium time in the summer is essentially daily, that students, graduate students, are on the podium and receiving feedback in masterclass settings, but then also taking the reins in preparing for those public performances really on their own with faculty supervision. And so it's a wonderful balance of experimenting and learning new things about yourself, as well as exercising your leadership.
Yes, and talking about that extensive podium time, every summer in that season, like Tim mentioned, multiple concerts. We or actually not last summer now. I always forget that 2020 happened sometimes. But the 2019 festival, there were 10 concerts in that summer, starting just about June 29th and ending July 31st. So in a very short time, there's a lot of concerts happening, as Tim mentioned, with the young artist and the vocal artist. We provide that professional, highly adaptive ensemble that is there for you, for the grad students. About 80% of all the music that's presented during the festival every summer is conducted by the graduate student population. The festival, again, just like COREO and its mission in general, the festival is there and was created and designed for the grad students to answer, as Tim mentioned, that that question of, it's a degree in choral conducting, how can we get a degree in choral conducting if we're not conducting? How are we going to do our performances? So that was the reason to do that. In terms of the concerts, the noontime concert series, now that we're looking at a third-year cohort that is graduating, those concerts are fully led by the grad students. That we break the students up into groups of 2 or 3 grad students. They talk over the year, program a concert themselves. The concert, the rehearsals, everything are led by those specific grad students with a faculty mentor that's just there to kind of observe. It's treated really like your graduate recital that you would have at any other institution, except you don't have to go and recruit all your friends to try and find a choir. The choir is provided for you. And then with that, every summer we do a masterwork that is with a full professional orchestra. Most of our orchestra members either come from the Des Moines Opera Orchestra as well, that is also in residence if their schedules allow, or they're Des Moines Symphony players or other professional players in the Des Moines area. And again, that's all just provided as part of what we do. The rest of the concerts that we do are programmed and kind of overseen by our various faculty. So we program a concert that works, but then we come in together and say, okay, Amber, for instance, we think there's these 3 great pieces for this summer for you can conduct that will help, with this conducting thing that you're trying to work and trying to make happen. So we assign all the graduate students to those concerts, but again, they're pretty much completely conducted by the grad students. This summer, we won't have the Composers Institute just because of, again, COVID and trying to maintain some protocols for this summer for everyone to be safe. But we typically have a week-long Composers Institute. Matt runs that with our composers. Are the 2 in residence every year are Tim DeCash and Jocelyn Hagan. And then we have composers that come in and work for 1 week with those composers and with Matt. The concert then at the end of the week has new pieces. Again, Matt conducts and kind of leads that week, but grad students also then conduct with that as well. So there's time for you to possibly work with new music as well as
so as mentioned, we have all sorts of different conducting backgrounds, and I know that a lot of people come to this program from public school experiences or sometimes church positions, and there might be sort of the question of, how is this going to relate to my work? How is it? And I think that what we've been able to accomplish is to expand people's knowledge of repertoire in particular, and to expand their conducting vocabulary in a way that allows them to really expand what they're able to do and what they're able to imagine from a programming standpoint in their home choirs. It's wonderful. We think it's great when we hear people come back and say, wow, I never would have thought of programming Di Lasso or something, or a Bach piece or something like that with a high school choir or with my church choir. But now that I'm equipped with this knowledge, I feel much more comfortable doing those sorts of things. And so you should know as well that you're able to work with all of us during the summer. That's one of the things that sort of makes this different, is that as opposed to just being tutored by a single professor, there are the 4 of us, as well as additional masterclass opportunities with other guest faculty members that we tend to bring in every year. We also have, as Phil mentioned, working with orchestra members. We have in the past been able to do masterclasses with orchestral directors and players to kind of fully round out all of your conducting experiences. And now I'd like to introduce, I know I'm losing my place here, introduce us to Monica, who is joining us. Monica is about to start her 3rd and final summer with us. So she's going to be one of our first graduating classes. And she's just going to tell you a little bit about sort of what it's like to be a member of one of our cohorts.
Well, first of all, great to meet you all. As Matt said, my name is Monica. I was one of those people who, when I was pursuing a master's degree, I was really looking for a place that was going to be summers only, because I really loved my job, and I wanted to stay at where my current employment was and just be really, really good at where I'm already at. And, you know, the faculty that we have at Simpson, I cannot speak highly enough of. And Matt, just as Matt was saying, you get an opportunity to work with anybody. I mean, there's just been times where, you know, I remember Amy, when she came last time, I was like, hey, if anybody wants to have a conducting lesson, just send me an email. And so I sent her an email and we set up a lesson. Like, it was just, it's no problem. And they're so available and so willing and wanting to help. And it's so wonderful to have so many people on your team and your support team. And one of the things I love the most about our program is lab choir. We get the opportunity to, you know, start running a rehearsal, and we'll have one of the faculty members just kind of watch over us and just jump in when they want to have us try something else, or, you know, experiment in a new way, or do something that you never thought would even be possible in conducting. And they're just given this wonderful opportunity to try new things, and in a place that is so welcoming. I mean, everybody that's all my classmates, we're all best friends. We all have a group meet right now. We talk to each other almost daily, which is so great, because that was not something I was thinking was going to happen. I thought it was going to be, you know, very competitive, and instead I became into this wonderful community of just people willing to help, and the singers too, and having the perspective of the singers. I remember there was one time 2 summers ago when I got off the podium, and one of our section leader sopranos was like, hey, I think you're trying to communicate this, but it's not coming across as that. So maybe try this the next time you're on the podium. And she was right. And it was so unbelievably helpful. And you really are on the podium every single day. The amount of time that we get working with each other and all the opportunities, I mean, it's just, as Tim said, it's like really fun and really hard summer camp. Like, it's the best. And the, you know, the other wonderful thing is that since we're all in campus, majority of us are some people who commute in from Des Moines. Again, we have study parties. We hang out all the time. We just sit around and talk about choral music. We've actually, some of us have talked about wanting this next summer to just like do open score reading together, just like at night for fun, because why not? Because we're there. So it's filled with wonderful, great people, such positive energy, and everybody just wants you to be the best version of yourself and to help you continue to grow in a really loving and wonderful environment. So I can't speak of it highly enough, and everybody should be a part of it. And I'm so thankful that I am.
Thank you, Monica.
You're welcome.
So let's talk a little bit about that 3 summer residence experience. You know, we've mentioned a few times that yes, a 3 summer format allows our students to continue to do what they do during the regular academic year. But there's another aspect of a 3 summer program, and that's that the integration of what you're learning each summer is possibly, it's something you can take home to your position and to your life for the 9 months, 10 months in between your summer terms, and work to integrate into your life, and then come back the next summer with a new set of questions, and having experienced some new things, and really knowing the next set of questions that you want answered, and having had that experience, what worked and what didn't work. So there is that aspect of a 3 summer residence program that really spreads out what is otherwise really intensive learning during the summer session, but then there's some time for it all to germinate and to take hold. Additionally, this program is not one that has online work during the school year, or any assigned classes during anything except the summer residence. That does not necessarily mean that we are not in contact with the master's students on a fairly regular basis during the school year. Lots of questions, lots of opportunity to plan for the next summer's rep, lots of opportunities even to come out and visit various schools and teaching settings, conducting settings. But there is no online or other coursework that's required of our students during the school year, and that we find allows students to really remain engaged and centered in what they're doing every day in their very busy way. Also, a little bit about the overall cadence and the dates. You see some dates on the screen here. This summer we'll be beginning on the 14th of June You see that generally we begin on a Wednesday with the first day of classes. The new students will come to campus, those who will be living on campus, and those who won't be, on the Tuesday directly in front of that for an on-campus orientation and taking care of all the things that you need to take care of before classes begin. And then we spend the first 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, with just the 3 cohorts of graduate students on campus. Beginning the next week, our young artists arrive, and so the afternoon sessions become full of more singers. Right now, in addition to the Coro young artists, there's also a quartet of section leaders who are vocal artists, professional ensemble musicians, who join us beginning right away in that first full week of classes as well. The daily schedule, oftentimes people ask, so 7 weeks, what is the schedule like? Classes do begin in the morning hours, 8:30, 9 o'clock, often, and generally classes, academic coursework continues into the afternoon. Generally there's an afternoon rehearsal, choral ensemble time that usually begins around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And then there are also evening rehearsals for some of the Des Moines Choral Festival or other ensemble upcoming concerts. Now, when we start to think about what that might mean in a daily schedule, it might mean that someone begins their morning at 8 o'clock and finishes their last rehearsal at 9:30. Where does the homework happen? Where does the academic work happen? It is worked very carefully through our scheduling so that students, if they're conducting in an afternoon or rehearsing, singing in an ensemble that's rehearsing in the afternoon, they typically have the evening off, and vice versa. If they are going to be rehearsing in an evening session that day, they will have an afternoon where they are not engaged in rehearsal. So there is actually time for students to accomplish their coursework. A lot of our courses are an every other day situation, perhaps a Tuesday, Thursday. The big exception to that is choral literature, which meets Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. But there is quite a nice cadence to the overall summer, and we do spread performances out throughout the 7-week experience by varying the size of ensemble and the students who are involved in conducting. And you see there, we do take evenly spread out 12 credits per summer of coursework. So in total, it's 36 credits by the time you've completed 3 summers. And perhaps, Phil, you'll talk a little more about that. Actually, I lied, not Phil, Matt, go ahead and lead us off. Phil's like, no, I'm not talking about that.
Kim did mention, yeah, choral literature we think is just a cornerstone of what we do, besides, of course, all the podium time. So that does meet 4 times a week, and there's a lot of information there. It's basically structured as a seminar course, and so the students who are assigned topics, and then they go and research them and learn how not only learn about the topics, basic, usually composer based, but also how to present, how to create PowerPoint presentations, how to choose good music that's representative of whatever the topic might be, how to find scores. And so it's really wonderful to see students progress from maybe being sort of awkward or not quite knowing how to make these presentations to being really polished by the end, not only with the knowledge of the repertoire, but also just with their ability to share that knowledge with others.
And then the seminar class and lab ensemble, these are sort of specialized little mini workshops that explore everything from conducting gesture and how to use that, for better sound. It's also a lot of rehearsal strategies and things. We'll also talk about arranging and working with an orchestra. So it's a really diverse class that kind of covers a lot of the stuff that you're using in the lab ensemble. And the lab ensemble, as Monica mentioned, gives you a lot of podium time. It also gives, this is where I think the hands-on instruction and being able to practice what you're learning along the way, standing in front of a group, working with your body and your gesture and how that looks and how that translates, and then really just getting some feedback and helping you find, you know, the best possible way for you to do what you'd like to in an efficient manner. And so it's one of my favorite parts of the program, something that I got to do a lot of in my first year. And so I think you'll also find that watching other people and being able to see maybe some of yourself in those individuals and or, you know, areas of strength and or growth. So yes, that's a really wonderful experience.
Well, and as Tim has mentioned before, you know, the Simpson itself, there's only one graduate program in music. So unlike some other major universities, you know, even the music history, music theory, and the vocal ped and choral diction or vocal diction that you take, we still center that around what you're doing. We center around the repertoire that's happening that summer as well. The music theory, music history classes are by Kurt Connect, who lives in Kansas City, wonderful organist as well, composer, just kind of all around amazing guy. But he uses repertoire that we're using that summer within those classes. So again, you're just be able to center on what is going on during that 7 weeks of intense study and conducting.
And I would mention also there's something each summer listed concert conducting and the graduate choral ensemble. What you don't see listed necessarily are conducting lessons, though they happen, as you heard Monica mention earlier, on a very regular basis, and they are rolled into the preparation for each one of those concerts, so that if you and I are working together on an upcoming concert rep, it means that we're going to not only be discussing rehearsal strategies and score study for those pieces, but also that you'll be in my office waving your arms through pieces and talking about strategies for what works and what doesn't. We also do quite a bit of video recording so that you are doing significant amounts of self-analysis as well along the way. So we're excited about that possibility, both in the lessons as well as in the conducting. And I will mention also graduate choral ensemble is where your singing experience comes in each summer. So you have an opportunity to be on the other side of the podium as well. That ensemble, as mentioned earlier, is actually broken up into a variety of different concert reps. You're not singing in every rep, but you are taking part in singing on the other side of the podium as well.
So as we've talked about all of this, you know, of course, the next question is, please, like Amy said, and Monica has said, we'd all love to have every one of you with us in the program. How do we make that work? In terms of requirements, you know, there's obviously a transcript from your undergrad, letters of recommendation, and then, Tim, am I right? Are we on the next slide or?
Sure.
Sweet. Just so I make sure I list everything. You know, your CV, resume. We do have two statements: a statement of teaching philosophy and just a personal statement. We just want to get to know you. You know, we want to find out more about you, and you know, and especially although this is a diverse, you know, program, we're looking especially for that. We just want to make sure that you're fitting in with this intense program, and the statement just let us know a little more about you, just to make sure we know how to work with you and how to make it worth the best program for you. We also do have two videos that we asked for, and of course during this time, you know, please contact us, let us know what we can do to help you. We typically want to have a video of a performance, and we want to see a video of your rehearsals, and to be honest, the rehearsal video is the one that all of our faculty like to see the most, because again, we're here to help you get through this process of graduate conducting and serve you with all the various things that we can offer you. And seeing a rehearsal video lets us see where you're at, lets us see how you function, and lets us know how we're going to be able to best serve you for those 3 summers. So those are the few things. I think all of you probably by this point know Ginger, our admissions counselor. She is just amazing. So Ginger Herman is the one that facilitates all that and gets everything ready for you.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. And yes, that was a picture of Ginger. You've only ever corresponded via email or otherwise with her. Now you've actually seen a picture of Ginger. So there we go. The question oftentimes comes up about fees and how that all works. You see on the slide here currently, we mentioned there are 12 credits per summer that are classes that you would enroll in over the 3 summers. Our tuition rate plus a technology fee exists there. The $500 per summer recital fee goes to offset the cost of all of the Des Moines Choral Festival. So all of the, whether it's an orchestra or whether it's ensemble players or the professional ensemble being there, the transportation that it takes to make it all happen, that's all wrapped up into one fee. And so in total, the question of overall investment in your education comes out to about the same as perhaps 1 year in many cases in other institutions. So we do feel that it is competitively priced for the education that's there, and there's a value there. Oftentimes people are wondering about where in the heck would you live on Simpson's campus, and indeed Simpson does have a number of apartments and they are available to our students in the summer. They're typically double occupancy, and that again, financial assistance and Ginger can be very helpful in giving you more information about that. But on-campus housing is available for less than $20 a night, and so for 7 weeks or so, that comes out pretty reasonably to be housed on campus and have your own kitchen and other sort of amenities along the way. No one's asking you to live in a dorm room. I haven't done that in years, so we'll try and avoid that aspect. I would also, I guess, mention a little bit about the financial aid and administrative stipends. I'll turn that back over to Phil.
Oh, sure. So financial aid, of course, it is an accredited program. So the financial aid department at Simpson works with you if you want to look at student loans for that aspect. There are quite a few students that find affordable or find extra assistance through different programs or even their own work. Some people, if they will have a music education or some kind of stipends that they can use towards education. There also are a few graduate stipends we offer. They're really kind of almost considered like a graduate work study stipend. We do, the stipends are not large, but we do have some of those that are available. And basically throughout the summer, we just ask for a little bit of administrative help with, whether it's from helping get some music going or making copies or things like that. So it's nothing, expansive. And it's always something that is outside of what you're doing educationally, but not intrusive into what you need to do, which is your main focus of education. So that deadline for every year for this year is April 1st. That just means we need the whole application in by that date for us to consider you. There's no additional application materials that you have to provide. If you're done and matriculated, then we look at you as a potential candidate.
And with that, Ginger asks us to let you know that, of course, you can apply on our website. And I know many who are watching either tonight or in future recordings maybe have begun that process already. And we look forward to seeing and reviewing your application when it's complete. I'm going to take the shared screen down so that we can actually see a few more faces at this moment, but we do have a few moments for a time for questions. If any of you have questions, I would invite you, if you're with us live, just to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question, or feel free to type it into the chat. And if you have a question for Monica, I know she would be happy to answer any questions as well.
My first question is around how many are in a cohort, like when you get started, and maybe Monica can answer that, or you guys.
So my cohort there's 10 of us in ours. And then the class underneath, I think, has 8, I think was last year's. All right.
I think
I think it was around there. So, enough where you feel very supportive, but not so many that you don't get enough podium time. So they definitely spread it out perfectly.
Do the first, like the first, second, third year cohorts ever coexist, or are they completely separate?
They do coexist. A number of courses, such as choral literature and sometimes seminar, are actually combined courses. The other courses like music history, music theory, vocal ped, the diction courses are cohort specific. And so there's a nice mix of being involved with everyone, and then also being involved in much smaller groups. And of course, then on some of the concerts, it may be a second year cohort and a third year cohort or a first year cohort who are conducting together as well. So there's an opportunity for everyone to get to know one another and see each other work. That's true also in the lab ensemble. Everyone is doing some conducting in the lab ensemble setting.
Well, and that lab ensemble is what you call the graduate choral ensemble. And so I think this answered my question when you said, so we would get to sing in that.
Yes.
That makes me really happy to know I not only get to be on the conducting side, but get to be on the receiving end as a singer.
Oh, Amber, I just want to comment a little more about that too. You're right. It's, that's part of what we thought about with faculty too, of there's so much you can do on the podium, but again, you get different types of feedback and you learn yourself so much when you're singing instead, and it's having your graduate people conduct for you. So
right.
Also within that, we make sure, again, because of so much going on, your choral ensemble portion that you're singing in, those will be concerts that you're not actually conducting yourself on. So again, that way, if you're conducting pieces on a concert, you're also not thinking that night of, oh yes, I also have to sing all this repertoire and then I walk out, right? We consider you a conductor for that concert. And then there's a different concert that you might sing on as well.
Okay.
So we definitely make sure that you're getting the full use always. And that's especially where those collaborations come in, as Tim was saying. So you're going to sing in a concert where third year students are conducting, and then you're going to conduct with third year students singing for you.
Right. Okay. So my last part that I had for you guys was just like, I guess it would go along the line of prerequisite. Like, I know that I have my degree and all, but a lot of times you'll have to take a placement exam or some sort. Do you guys have anything like that?
We don't have specific placement exams. Kurt Connect, who does theory history, there is for theory, he does it's not necessarily a placement exam of you have to have a certain score or you need to take a remedial course. It's actually just a way, again, for him to get to know where you're at within your theory understanding, and so that way he can tailor the first part of the course to make sure everybody is kind of up to speed where they need to be. The other thing about these groups, Monica is a prime example. She's in the kind of the middle of her teaching in some respects, but we have very new students fresh off their undergrad, and we have students that are very much at the kind of the last portion of their careers and saying, I just still want to have this degree so I know more myself. So yeah, there's not any specific placement exam, but we do make sure that everybody's caught up, or we work with them at the beginning to make sure they're on the right page to be successful.
My last question for you guys is, if I were to apply, would I want to first do the FAFSA before I apply, or can I do that after I apply? What I don't know what the application process looks like, so.
You can do it after you apply. The FAFSA is something that our financial aid office will then use once you've been admitted. So it does not have to happen before the application process.
The videos are a difficulty for me. My choir is currently meeting on a tennis court. So I'm hoping for some guidance on how should I move forward. Now, the good news is I have some parents that are those kind of parents who record everything. So I have a plethora of concerts, but I'm not sure how I can get rehearsals. And so I'm hoping for some guidance on that.
Sure. I mean, I would just say that as Phil mentioned earlier, we are seeing this year everything from a recorded Zoom experience to something very similar to what you just described. It's not necessarily, and we're always our own worst critics anyway, it's not necessarily anyone's best day oftentimes this year, and we are acknowledging that. If you're doing some rehearsing, we know that you may not have great sound quality. We know that you may have to go chase a piece of music across the tennis court.
It's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed. Oh, good. Clothespins that day. But yeah, I think the best advice or best comment we can make is that we understand that, and even if it's, you know, a cell phone video, we are okay with that. Really what we're hoping to see is some interaction. And of course, then this year, there's also the reality oftentimes of perhaps not really seeing much in terms of what your face is doing if you're masked with the ensembles as well. So we acknowledge there are difficulties with that. If there's a way to get even a sampling of you working with a classroom or an ensemble, that would be really all we're looking for. And I guess I would throw in also, while the idea of a front-facing camera on performances is something that we list on the website as preferred, there's also the reality, as you mentioned, perhaps it's a family member or a family member of a singer who's out there, and it's a lovely back shot of the conductor. We're seeing that this year as well, because most of us aren't having live in-person performances where we can set up a camera and get good footage of ourselves. So again, we're acknowledging that this year, and that's just fine. Yeah, and I guess that's the other thing. It does not need to be recorded this year or in the last 2 months. If you have some things from previous years that you think still represent you accurately, that's absolutely fine.
I've got just one quick question now, talking about the rehearsal videos. Would you like the rehearsal to be predominantly showing conducting, or would you like maybe a mix of, you know, here I am plunking out some notes on the piano, here I am conducting? What would you prefer?
I think personally we learn the most about a conductor and through watching the rehearsal process. So if it's just a equivalent to a performance video, that's not the goal. It's really to observe you teaching, going after a goal and achieving that, or working toward that with the ensemble and interacting with the ensemble. And that's perhaps the difference between the rehearsal, usually the rehearsal video and the performance video.
To me, it's almost like we just stepped in for 10 minutes to whatever rehearsal you were doing, you know, and it just happened to be, oh, now we're observing this portion of your rehearsal. So we're also, it doesn't necessarily have to be some jam-packed, you know, scheduled 8 minutes of, okay, now we're doing 2 warm-ups and now we're gonna, like, you know, just, we want to see, again, your process of one goal that you maybe have that's reminiscent of your normal time rehearsal strategy you would do.
Great. Well, this has been wonderful and great questions. I want to be sure we answer any other questions that are out there, if there are any more.
I was curious, so with the choral diction 1 and 2, is that standard like Italian, French, German, going through those languages?
Yeah, your standard languages, and I think Nick wants to throw in, you know, just kind of the very quick kind of, you know, Cyrillic and whatnot, kind of at the end, just, you know, again, focus kind of on choral diction. So what things might you come across?
The other one I had a question mark on was, what is advanced musicianship training?
Yeah,
we
so
didn't discuss that. Sorry, go ahead.
I probably should have mentioned with the theory and history, but it's, you know, it comes in some respects from a NASM requirement for a graduate degree that you can show that you have advanced musicianship and understanding of your field. There are many, you won't see it as an actual class with many universities. A lot of my colleagues at other places say, well, we kind of take care of that in their entrance, you know, interviews and everything else. But basically we talk about, you know, like sing one, play one, and talk about open scores and, you know, being able to take an orchestral score and maybe not play the whole thing, for instance, but at least understand transitions, understand where all this fits in. So again, kind of, it's advanced things from the choral director's perspective of extra things you definitely need that, again, we might not discuss in seminar and choral conducting or things like that. But, you know, we do want to make sure that you can sit down to the piano and kind of help through your rehearsal if you need to, you know, those kinds of things.
Well, I will mention also that at the very beginning of this presentation on the slideshow, there was contact information for each of the 4 of the faculty members here. Please feel free to email, call, reach out in any way, carrier pigeon. We're more than happy to talk with you about the program and really excited about this, what will be our third summer coming up this summer, and Monica's last summer with us, even though it's spread over 4 years because of this strange situation. But that's really an exciting milestone for the organization and for the program. So we're excited about that, and we thank you all for being with us, and look forward hopefully to hearing more from you in the near future. Thanks so much.